I'd like to welcome you to the Manasota Dowsing chapter meeting. And today we're going to welcome Shelley Darling in a few minutes. But I'd like to tell you a little bit about our chapter. We are in Florida and we cover Venice and Sarasota, Bradenton, St. Pete, and all the way up to Clearwater and other little towns in between. And this chapter has been going for about 30 years. So it's an old chapter run by two wonderful men. And just recently we had a change in officers, which is always good too. And we will welcome anyone who would like to contact us or join our chapter. You just go to the ASD National Chapter and you put in the Southern region and it will show you all the chapters. And if you're in another part of the world, you just put in your area and it will show you the chapters in your area so you can get connected to the National Association of Dowsers. I have been a teacher with the National Association of Dowsers for about 33 years, been a member for over 40. I love the group. They are dedicated to educating people on how to douse and how to use your dowsing in your everyday life and to help you grow spiritually. So it's a wonderful organization and I suggest you go check it out. It's dowsers.org and check it out. All right, so today we're meeting virtually because we can't meet in public yet. We tried a few meetings, but then here in Florida, the COVID is pretty bad. So we're meeting virtually still. So Shelley, I met her a few years ago and we just hit it off and we've become friends ever since. And she invited me to her dowsing symposium, which she does pretty much on a regular basis. And she'll probably tell you about that at the end of her talk today. She is here in Sarasota visiting her family. She lives in Maine at the present time. She's traveled internationally for the past 12 years as a dowsing master and speaker, which led her to authorize her upcoming book. Congratulations, that's wonderful. Songline of the Heart. And it's a Navigator's Guide to Resurrecting Your Heart, Your Home, Your Habitat, and synthesizes her knowledge of emotional integration, heart resonance, and feng shui with dowsing, which invokes an energetic quickening in the field, uplifting the home and the office and the environment. Shelley's dedication to love as a principal pathway, combined with their understanding of conscious evolution, has delivered a dynamic whole system model, which speaks to evolutionary dowsing as a transformation journey whose purpose is to restore personal and planetary peace, which many on the planet now are working on. So welcome, Shackley, to our chapter, and we so look forward to not only your talk tonight, but to your book that's coming out.
Thank you, Carol. And I am excited to be with everyone. There we go. So I just want to welcome everyone. People on Facebook might be a little surprised because this was not planned until just now. And also I've been kind of out of the spotlight for a while. I've been taking some time, as Carol said, being in Maine in this incredible sanctuary, a living sanctuary where the eagles fly and really being very, very close to nature. So, but I'm here and excited to be with the Manasota Dowsers. And I wanted to just share a little bit before I just start jumping in here. And we definitely want to take a moment and open with heart resonance, because that's really important. And I'll explain why in a minute. So, and I want to welcome everyone who's here with us in the Zoom room. Some very dear friends, and I'll share a little bit more about that. So welcome John and Nancy and Dell and Laura and Catherine and Marley and many of you who are still joining us here in the Zoom room. So for me, years ago, I came and I've lived in Sarasota, as many of you know, tend to be a warm weather beach blossom, so to speak. Love the warmth, love the Crystal Beach here on Siesta Key, and have family here and a daughter and grandchildren. So, but recently, even though there was some resistance, I was called to go to Maine and complete the book that Carol was talking about, and also working on a movie there. And really against everything that I've ever, 14 years of being in warm weather. In the wintertime, had the opportunity to just really sit still, have a beautiful writing room, and there is that beginning of that story to complete the book. And the reason the Dowsers here are really important to my heart is that these ones have been really holding the field for dowsing, as I'll explain, as an evolutionary tool. It's more than just dowsing water. It's more than dowsing, looking for treasures or gold or minerals. It's really about coming home to the heart. And Carol and this particular group, when I first got here, they were meeting in the library, and it was such a joy to come in and learn how they, and I hope today they're going to get to share a little bit, how did dowsing come into your life? Because people who might be listening even right now, they're like, what's dowsing? Or they might just simply know it as a tool for a farmer to look for water, to find crack pipes or something like that. But the power of dowsing is that it really brings us into a deeper relationship with ourselves, with our own intuition, and builds confidence with the unseen subtle forces of life. So if you think about, for some of you who might be listening, if you think about the wind, right? We can't really see the wind. We see the trees moving. We feel its energy against our face, right? Or we see waves, right? But similar to that, there is energy. If everything is energy, there are electromagnetic frequencies that affect the earth, and that have been now scientifically proven. And so the Dowsers and the Dowsers in Manasota and the people around the world who are now interweaving their skills of being planetary healers, or say feng shui. Many people know about feng shui. We're working with those unseen energies, and to invite everyone just to get comfortable with that. And with that, just going to invite everyone to just put down whatever you're doing just for a couple of minutes and sit down and just come in connection with your heart. So for me, there are many different ways, meditation, very different ways to do that. There are many rituals. And this is simply a way to just come into greater communion with the presence of your spirit, of your guidance. It's that sensibility when you feel that you're in alignment, and then different synchronicities will start to happen. And so we're just going to invite you into that space. So even I'm just going to take a moment, I'm just going to close my eyes and just really feel your feet on the ground. And begin to just become aware of your own heartbeat. It's really simple. The invitation is to come into that resonance or vibrational frequency of that energy that is moving this incredible ecosystem within your own body. So for right now, we're just settling into our own body, right? The heart pumping, the blood moving through your organs, that connection with your feet on the ground, the connection with earth. This is what Native Americans have known for thousands of years. how to really be in harmony with that. And as you're just simply letting go of mass consciousness, because that's the invitation right now. Just let go of whatever is thoughts or fears or concerns and just come, relax, find that place between the heartbeats. And allow this energy just to soothe you, to let go. And allow you yourself to become aware of, just like a branch of a tree, right? To allow yourself to become aware of that energy outside your own body. And ultimately, there is no separation. And that sensibility of peace comes from this direct relationship, whatever you want to call it, with God, with source consciousness. And we just begin with a sensibility, a sense of gratitude. And we just allow that to connect. And just play with as softening your body a little bit. And just like being here in Sarasota or floating in this ocean, allowing your body just to soften and to open to receiving the information that really wants to come through today for everyone. This is collective. I'm going to invite everyone here on Zoom to put yourself on mute. And just note the experience you're having. Even the resistance to sitting still is okay, because we invite anything that is present to be with us. And very gently, just coming back into the room, just gently opening your eyes. And for those of you who are on Facebook as well, just look around the room. Look what captures your eyes. And continue just to be in that steady pace where you're feeling that sense of nurturing, because this is the most important thing right now in terms of restoration and in terms of our health, right? Because it's, we know that there's a lot of chaos going on. We know that there's whatever there's storms, there's all kinds of things going on in our personal lives and outside of ourselves. But today in this space, we come into direct connection with this living field of life. And some people call it the unified field. But we have the opportunity to really open and to receive this experience of love, because that's the bottom line. Because why else do it? Why else be involved with something? Why else not be in connection with someone or an experience of love on all levels? And for me, if I'm showing up here, it's because that experience, that is the driving force of nature, that brings us in the direct relationship with the intelligence of nature as ourselves, is vital. Because when we feel that, we feel like we can relax and we can be present, and then we can take the steps that each one of us are being asked to be, whether it's simply to be there for another person or a family member. It's a whole different experience. And this sense of what I'll drop in a word or a phrase this morning, the home frequency, this sense of coming home, because we need it. And this to me is the expression of what has developed, which began as golden light dowsing. So many of the dowsing people here know me and the work that I do as golden light dowsing, but what's evolved, and as this book is coming out, and prior to that, working with the Sacred Evolutionary Dowsing Consortium, which is made up of not just dowsers, is that this is inclusive, is a whole system experience that's inclusive of ancient wisdom, feng shui, heart resonance, and emotional integration. And what I've learned, and what I'm humbled and excited to be able to share, is when those systems come together as one, when we're dowsing, and it's inclusive of, yes, water for sure, because water is the source of life. We can't survive without water. And water in dowsing plays a big part, as maybe you'll hear from some of these beautiful people in the Zoom room, I hope, right? But everyone has a different, we'll say a modality or a different holographic expression of how they're using dowsing. And today I just have the opportunity to kind of open and widen the field a little bit. That what happens when we not only douse for water, but we're looking for these earth energies that are affecting our homes, right? Because no matter what we're doing, we're coming home to the place where we sleep. And if that house isn't supporting you in the way that it can actually, then they can become a deterrent or a resistance to us being healthy, to getting well, and to really living on purpose, right? Living our lives in a meaningful way. And for everyone, it's really different. And the beauty of this experience, which we'll talk more about today, is it's about joy. How do we actually live in joy in this time where and I'm going to bring two more words in, and then I'm going to open it up for people to come and say something or how they're being moved. But I want to drop in generational trauma. And I've had the opportunity, and this is going to be expressed more in the near future, to work with a group of elders and the consortium, which are now going to come together to look at our relationship to our homes, our heart, our homes, and humanity, and how dowsing can play a part. Because if you think about dowsing, what dowsing is doing, it's returning us to a blueprint. What's our personal call to be here? And also that relationship with the landscape where we're living. Can we become more conscious of our watershed? Because when we do, something starts to change. We start to feel a little bit different. And then how does that affect humanity? And can we, as working in groups, so that's really my personal passion, is to create especially with the consortium right now, how do we create the conditions that groups can come together and broaden and expand this sense of resonance, and therefore, how do we build coherence together? And what I've seen in my life, and I'm going to end right here, so thank you for listening, is that as I've traveled internationally, and is that when we come together in groups, and when we start working on our homes and the land as a collective, individually and as a collective, I'll say, then things start to shift in the community. And people innately start to feel that they want to be a part of a group, or they want to create their homes as gathering spaces, or they want to be more involved in the community. And that's really what begins to shift that tipping point of peace, really. It's the restoration. So with that, I'm going to just open this up. I'm going to give you a gallery view. There's quite a few people here. And just for you on Facebook, to let you know that you'll be seeing the people who feel feel comfortable to be on Facebook Live. And this is new for the Manasota Dowsers. So we really applaud you for showing up. And I'm going to open it up to invite people to either ask a question or to share, how dowsing came to you, or what's moving you, what is that emerging voice for you, and to keep it to like 2 or 3 minutes and allow different people to bring their voices forward if they feel like it. So with that, just want to check in with Carol. Is that okay, Carol? And you can take yourself off mute.
Yes, I just did. Yes, that's fine. We'd love to hear from everybody for a minute or two.
So if you feel like you want to bring your voice forward, just take yourself off mute. And that includes you, Carol, if you want to jump back in, and I'll be moving the highlight a little bit.
Or even how you use dowsing in your daily life. I think most of us here use it every day. I'm looking to see who's here, and yeah, we use it every day. I do.
So why don't you start off, Carol, and open the way, and then see if other people want to come in.
Well, the dowsing can be used for so many things, and it's too long a story how I got into it. So I'll just tell you some little things that can be used for it. Let's say that I make an appointment with Shelley, and we're going to meet for lunch. And let's say we decide to meet at the Clam House, since this is Florida and there are a lot of good seafood places. And I get there and Shelley's not there. So what I do is I get out my dowser and I can dowse. Did she leave yet? Yes, she did. Okay, then I better not order. I'll wait till she comes, and sure enough, 10 minutes later, she was caught in traffic. Now, this actually happened to me one time. I was at a restaurant waiting for a friend, and I dowsed, did she leave? And I got yes. Is she on her way? I got yes. So I waited and waited, and she didn't show up. And I ate my lunch and went home, and I thought, I guess dowsing doesn't work. And I got home, she called me up. She said, where were you? I says, I was sitting there waiting for you. She says, where? I said, Brickers. She says, we talked about 2 restaurants. I was at the other one. I said, you were at the other restaurant. Had I dowsed, we had talked about 2 different restaurants. We decided on Brickers, or so I thought. She thought we had decided on the other one. We were sitting waiting for each other a whole hour in 2 different restaurants. Now, if I had dowsed, was she coming to this restaurant? I would have got no. And then I would have dowsed, is she on her way to meet me? Yes. And then I would have dowsed, did she go to the other restaurant we talked about? And I would have got a yes. But sometimes when you're in your kitchen and you're making some soup and you taste it and it's so flat, tastes terrible. And you think, how can I serve this? And so you dowse what would be good? I was looking for my dowser here because I always like to hold it when yes, there it is. This is my pendulum, which I use every day. I have my L rods here too. They're behind me, but this is right here next to my computer. I have one in every room. I even have one in the bathroom, one in the bedroom, one in the kitchen. Oh, actually one in the dining room, one in my office, because you never know when you got to douse something. So I'm making the soup and it doesn't taste right. Would basil help? Yes. Would red pepper help? Yes. Would rosemary help? No, that would fight with it. So then how much? Oh, a tablespoon, 2 tablespoons of basil. Yes. And let's see, red pepper, 1/4 teaspoon. Oh, okay. And you just ask how much. And so you can use it every day. Now, teenagers, they may be at a dance and the boy looks at all the girls and he thinks, oh my God, I don't dare go ask him to dance. So he looks at Jane and he really wants to dance with Jane. And he gets out his little pendulum, runs in the bathroom, dows it. Would Jane dance with me if I asked her? And he gets a yes. Then he has confidence to walk over there and say to Jane, I would like to dance with you. Would you dance with me? And she says, I would love to. See how easy it makes life. If you just learn to douse. That's enough for me, Shelley. That's everyday dowsing in a nutshell.
So I think this is so this is perfect because this is going down to the baseline here. And so what
Right.
Carol was showing you was pendulum. For those of you who might just be watching for the first time, for me, and she was speaking to the L rods, and these are the L rods, and you can, they're definitely can be used in different ways by, again, asking questions and asking for yes or no questions. And, or, you know, for me, I'm using them to measure energy. And it's perfect because I don't use dowsing like that every day. And sometimes I go like, oh, how come I didn't, you know? And I use the L rods because, and the spinning ones, because I'm working with larger pieces of land. Primarily for me, I'm working with individuals and their homes, or focusing on selling houses, which isn't, you know, with COVID has been, I mean, there are bidding wars, so it's a whole different program. Or, you know, really looking at what is in alignment with my own heart. I pretty much stay away from asking about relationships. I think it's what you're doing is inviting a lot of layers of emotional energy to get in there, and we can hear from other people. So thanks, Carol, for opening the way with just an everyday, and I love that. She's got pendulums in every room. Do I? No, you know, and will it make me think about, you know, do I want to do that? Well, maybe I will, you know, or carry a pendulum. Sometimes big decisions come up, and the beauty that I've discovered, or how dowsing came to me, and I think it is important to understand, number one, what is dowsing? And also, how does it come to us? Because it's usually somewhat out of left field. And that was how it was for me, which inevitably brought me to writing this book that's due to come out in October. And for me, dowsing, I was counseling people, helping people to really align with their heart, mastering their energy of their heart, and to live their dream, to support people in really believing in themselves and living their dream. And dowsing came to me in a way that I was ill this one night, and someone came to my house and introduced me to dowsing, which was a complete shock. And all I know is the next morning she came in and she worked her way with the dowsing rods. And the next morning I felt fine. And you know, when things happen to us, there is a movement trying to capture our attention. At that point, there was someone, her managing director was teaching dowsing just the following weekend. And that's where I began to discover, in holding the dowsing rods, I had a sensation that I had never had before, a surge of joy and a sense of, oh my God, I've done this before. And then became the exploration of what was this unique system, because dowsing is a system. And from there, working with my clients, and I discovered something very unusual happening, that my clients who have been working with me for 3 months, 6 months, a year, as soon as I doused their house, all of a sudden, they started breaking through some of these stuck places, some of these stagnancies in their life. And it continued to happen in ways that I couldn't imagine. And from there, I paid a lot of attention and realized that even if we think about going to a training or going to a concert or going to somewhere where we want to pay attention, and we don't realize or haven't associated how we feel with the space that we're in. And so that became an inner awakening for me in watching my clients, and so forth. There it goes from there. So with that, let's just open it up for some other people. We'll just open the gallery again. And I see John and Laura and Nancy and Dell. If anyone wants to say hi and bring in what's moving you as you're listening to this today, and even what's your story. And John, John, I'm going to ask you to unmute. And can you unmute? Right now, we can't hear you. So the mute button is it'll be on the left-hand side of your screen, and you'll see by the microphone, just hit that microphone.
Unmute.
Perfect.
Hi. I have a different take at dowsing, of course. I'll get my eyesight out. You know, I have macula in my left eye, so I block it out. My take, the current take that I've been working on for a long time now is that I started dowsing in the late 60s. One of the things that was that I'm currently talk people about dowsing is that it's a conscious way of accessing your subconscious mind. We access our subconscious mind consciously, normally and only in emergencies, or when something is very important to our health, or whatever, and it comes out, and we find out that what's going on. But you can access your subconscious mind with the dowsing rods, and there's a lot of stuff going on in your subconscious mind that you don't have going on consciously, and so to be able to get there and find out what's going on is very valuable. And so this is what, and after you use it a long time, you can do this almost without using your dowsing rods, but you get into a yes/no situation or whatever. So that's what I'm interested in, and that's what I'm talking about when I talk about dowsing.
Yeah, thank you, John. That is so true. And when you're dowsing, what's the tool that you use primarily, or?
My brain.
See, I love that. Your brain. Thank you. Fantastic.
That's it. If you engage that, it helps you out.
Thank you. And John, just want to let people know that before Carol came in and really has been holding the space, John, for years and years, really was the one who I believe began, am I correct? Began the.
No, it was Marley's mother.
Oh, Marley's mother. Okay, great.
Was the one that started the dowsing.
Okay.
And it was I'm sorry, it wasn't Marley's mother. It was Jackie Miller. And she invited Marley's mother and myself to be part of the original signers. Was it 25 years ago?
Awesome.
Or more.
More than 25.
More than 25 years ago. And so
not more.
Yeah. And you were, if I remember correctly, you were also dowsing for treasures. You've gotten into looking for treasures and things like that around Florida.
That was the president, Ed Strait.
Ed, right.
But a lot of the stuff that I've been interested in is just doing things for the club, and then that I got very interested in map dowsing.
Map dowsing. Thank you.
It's a whole different animal. It isn't a different animal, but it sounds like a different animal.
Mm-hmm.
But just for people that are there, that you can go over a map with your fingers and find as much information on the map as you can by actually physically going over the place that you're going. Now I understand that sounds impossible, but you have to try it to find out. You don't close your mind to anything. Keep your mind open and experiment constantly.
Thank you. Yes, beautiful. Thank you, John. So I'll just speak to that a little bit. So thank you for bringing, so this is the beauty of dowsing. Everyone gets called to what is meaningful to their own person, right? So map dowsing, or in the Consortium, many of you know, I do a lot of work with Charlie Riverman, and he really has been doing what we call grid work, and understanding that these energies run, on the earth, as I was saying, and John was describing how you can really tap into how that energy and map dowsing is a powerful tool for working with the land and working, depending on what you're looking for, or looking for to help resolve, such as an explanation would be where there's mining or fracking, that causes a disruption in the energy field if your house is near there. And we're looking at how that's affecting. And also nowadays, how we can create greater harmonization, greater harmony on the land. I'll share, before I open this up again, I'll share a little story because it's very powerful. And when I went to Australia, I was asked to douse this community, and I was asked to come and teach dowsing to, at that point, there were about, 25, 35, 40 people at this community space. And it was incredible. It was interesting because it was a Saturday, and it was sort of a building that was open on one side. And I was sitting with a whiteboard to my right, and I was talking from the left, and everybody was in front of me. And I started the introductory session, and I was fine, but then I wanted to go show them something on the board, and I moved over to the left. As soon as I moved over to the left, I couldn't say a word. It was the strangest. I only had one other experience, and actually that was in Florida, in Bradenton. That was very similar to this. And I couldn't, nothing would come out. I felt really like I couldn't think straight. John said I used my mind, right? I could not access my mind. If I moved, and then I moved over to the left, and I was fine. I'm like, what is going on here? I moved back over to the right, and the same thing happened. So obviously I taught from the left, and then we went outside, so that was no longer an issue. And I called the owner of the land, who happened to be in Africa, to say, hey, there's something really big going on here. And I started to get a sense of what it was. And he said, you're not the first person who has either worked with that situation. And so in my world, and so Carol, if you got the email, Carol talked about, and Ann Bliss, who's not here, and we hold you in the center here with us, said the name of my book is Songline of the Heart, A Navigator's Guide to Resurrecting. I'm not going to talk about that yet, but resurrecting your heart, home, and habitat. Well, on that particular day, a song line is when you hear about an Aboriginal walkabout or someone going on a walkabout, they're walking the song lines. And those song lines are a relation to the ley lines. And without getting into too much, that's in the book and talking more, or if you want to go to learn more, go to Bruce Chatwin in Australia. He's got a book on the song lines, and other people as well. But essentially, those song lines, the Aboriginals, there's actually a song that goes with those lines. And as they hit a new territory or another tribe, the song changes, and they're tracking that. And that's a real base way of describing this. But what was going on that day was that there was a broken ley line. And it took me a while to get away from that energy to begin to understand what was going on. And I was invited to go to a very sacred place on that land. And when I walked to that land and I began to understand the history of the land and what had happened with the breaking up of the property, as soon as that property had been broken up, there was that energy field was no longer connected. And with some of the tools that you can be taught with dowsing, how to remedy some of these situations. Some people use copper rods, crystals, some do spiritual rituals. There's many, many different ways of clearing this up. But once I went and began to communicate with the land, so in Australia, for me, I began to really experience the voice of the land, communicate with the land, and trust that, because trust is an important part in dowsing, as I'm sure everyone here will speak to. So as soon as I began to understand exactly what to do and use some of the crystals and different invocations and communicate with the land, all of a sudden I could go back to the same place where I had just taught an hour or two before, and there was no more resistance. It was back in connection. And that's some of the things, that's another way that dowsing is used to create greater harmony, to look at some of these, remember I started talking about generational trauma, to be able to feel and trust what you're feeling. And that's one of the biggest things that has happened with the people, at least that I've been working with, that all of a sudden they gain a sense of trust. Oh my God, no wonder why I had been feeling that. No wonder why I have this incredible child who is bright and smart. And we moved into a new house, and all of a sudden that child is acting out and goes even to the point of we want to put them on medication. But we need to look at these places and how they're affecting our being. And that's one of the things that I personally love to work with. And the team that I work with, they as well are specialists in that area. So I just wanted to bring that in to help people expand and feel into how this understanding of working with subtle energy, and a lot of times it's not so subtle. We have the expansion of that, of people doing paranormal work with ghosts or entities. And I'm just going to tell you, for me, I was one of the people that was like, there's no such thing as ghosts. I didn't ever have an experience of that, or of those kind of energies, or toxic energies like that. Not until I started to feel comfortable and trust and open to and be able to understand, and I'll leave you with this, like sometimes even we're walking by a home and we're going, God, I know somebody lives there, but the shades are pulled down and it's dark and you just never see anyone going in and out. And that would be a beta house, a house that no matter how hard that person was trying to evolve, it would be very difficult, or trying to heal trauma, or a house that maybe there's been a suicide in, and people go back to live in that house, and it's very, very difficult. So these are some of the opportunities that we can begin to open up to and understand, instead of being scared of or concerned about that. Everyone, whether you choose dowsing or not, you have the opportunity to allow yourself to realize that we aren't separate from nature. We aren't separate. We are whole beings, in a whole system within our own being, and we can see that in the world. The Aboriginals or Native Americans, they understood this, right? They understood that how the water flows and how the water from the headwaters down to the ocean needs to continue. And what are we doing? We're putting up dams, right? But we're looking, with dowsing, part of what happens is we begin to feel how we create those dams, how we feel we create those obstacles, and begin to remove them and allow the energy to flow again in a way that brings us joy, that allows for connection instead of separation. So with that, I'm going to open it up again and see if anyone else wants to jump in here and bring in your experience and how dowsing, if you want, how dowsing came into your life or what's moving you. So make sure you take yourself off mute. And even for those who are not showing their screen, that's fine. You can still bring in your voice, or you can put it into the chat. And if you're listening to this on Facebook Live, yes, I see Green Rita. Feel free to jump in.
Yeah, I have to kind of explain myself. I'm getting ready to mow the lawn, so I have all of this coverage on because I have suffered from Lyme disease a few times and West Nile virus conveyed by mosquitoes. So I do a very thorough coverage of my body and face. But I was able to address really extreme health challenges with the help of dowsing. And, you know, I'm 68 and I've had like, I guess about 15 to 18 years of dowsing. I started off with the pendulum and now I use my fingers because I just wanted a quieter way of, when I was in the health food stores, for instance, if I'm using the pendulum, then it just attracts a lot of attention. So nonetheless, I ended up getting a master's degree as a holistic practitioner and counselor. And I was attracted to dowsing and learned about it through Paralandra, that many of you probably know about, Michelle Small-Wright. She has a research garden in Warrenton, Virginia, where she makes her own flower essences. And after I had some really great experience in detoxing of systemic candidiasis with nutrition that was creating arthritis and diabetes and a lot of premature aging, I learned about her, I suppose through some online portal, and she teaches people how to douse, and she teaches people how to work with their own microbiome. And I was able to address H1N1. I got rid of my temporal mandibular joint issues. There were just a litany of things. And as it turns out, I've integrated about 4 or 5 different masters in my particular healing experience that may serve others. And at some point, I might be able to put all of this in writing, but it's a combination of nutritional guidance from Peter Diadamo. He is one of the international bestsellers in the blood type dietary recommendations, which really explains how each blood type has a certain profile of foods that are compatible with their particular blood type and do not turn on I am the most fragile. I'm a non-secretive, which is another level of detail and metabolic typing. But I am the most fragile of not only within my blood type A, but within the entire ABO blood system. So really does explain why I was so fragile all of my life. But I had layers of heavy metal toxicity and chemical toxicity and levels of PTSD that I didn't recognize. So I used the system of working with the microbiome through Paralandra to address a lot of these issues and clear things. And as it turns out, I have, out of that, I have started to explore over the past 5 or 6 years, just working with things like the weather. Like if I want to have a certain kind of weather for the day, and I don't do it all the time, but you know, I work with the David level and nature intelligence, and Michelle Small-Wright has given people kind of a framework so that you can work with the deva of your garden, the seeds, the winds. I even asked for, with the deva of the winds, in co-creative collaboration with the deva of my land, and who else did I involve? Probably a couple of other David level connections. I asked for the seeds that would be compatible to with my particular land to be sown in areas of my land that were open, and I didn't have time to get out there to do the work. And then I came out and there were violets everywhere on my particular land, and there was a demarcation between my land and my neighbors, and my entire front lawn was covered with violets. And then I thought that was pretty extreme. I really need to sit down and write some of these things.
Thank you, Rita. Rita, I just want to allow other people to
I'm
jump.
sorry. Okay. But that was just, I'm going to close it on that, just to say what levels of magic you can bring into your life with dowsing. So actually, I know, I appreciate you prompting me, but that was the last story. Sorry.
No, I think it's perfect. And so and again, we're just sort of expanding the possibility of where how you can use dowsing. And I just want to just say that Rita brought in some words that some of you who are listening might, Deva of the land, or speaking about Paralanda. These are things you can go look up. And again, beginning to be open to the possibility of the Deva of the land, those energies that are specifically there for that particular piece of property. And more on that if you track where we are with the Dowsers and myself, where I'll share a little bit. I just want to make sure that everyone has gotten it. Is there anyone else who wants to say something for another minute or so? And we'll just give it a minute to.
Yeah, I'd like to ask a question.
Sure.
I'm sorry, I couldn't get my picture working. So, I'm black and white today. I like to use the rods to improve the home atmosphere. So I measured the home atmosphere and it was like at 40% of what it could have been. So then I walked around the house to find different lines like Hartman line, Curry line. What I found is a pole line, P-O-H-L, a pole line. And I've tried, so pole lines are water lines, I understand, and they can hold very detrimental energies. And, I've cured it 3 times, and it keeps coming back. So does anyone have any suggestions there? I've cured it with crystals, copper wire, omega.
Okay, great. Thank you, Chris. And I'm going to ask Carol to just pop on here. And for those of you who are listening, we're going to begin to close this call. And maybe, Carol, you can answer that question. And then I'm going to just share a little bit for those who might be listening, where they can go, and a little bit about the book that's coming out, and why you might want to stay tuned for that.
Okay, Chris, as you were talking about the energy and all in your home, I was dowsing the energy and I hadn't quite got there. And so just repeat your question one more time.
Yeah, I found pole line, P-O-H-L, a pole line going, it actually, I found where they cross inside the house. So I treated it on all 4 entrances, 2 ways in, 2 ways out, and it keeps coming back.
You need to douse if you need help with that, because sometimes we need to call in either angels or divas or master, the masters, what we call the white brotherhood, or the masters, or the ascended masters is what I'm talking about. Sometimes we just can't do it. Most things we can do. It's amazing how powerful we are and what we can do. Really amazes me every day. But there are times when you need to call in help. And I would douse which kind of help you need, call in that help, ask if they can do it, then ask how long it will stay. And maybe it's only going to stay a year and you need to renew it. That you can find out. Maybe it's only going to stay a month. If it's only going to last a month, then you might ask, is there something else I could do that would make it last longer? It's all in your questions, Chris. So I would just go back and find out why it keeps coming back. I mean, the source may be just coming. It may be from outside the house. You clear it in the house, but it's not cleared. The line up above coming into the house has not been cleared, or who knows? So I think I would do that.
Okay,
Sometimes
thank you.
It's not just your house, it's much further away
Right.
that the bad energy is maybe a mile away coming back through the house. So you may need a lot more powerful. I find Archangel Michael is very powerful in many of these things. Hope
Thank you,
that
Carol.
helps.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you, Carol. So we're gonna just wrap this up, and Carol might want to just close after me. First of all, I think it's been just this really potent call where we've talked about different ways of dowsing, how to use dowsing, and just going to share a little bit about this book that's coming out, and also the group, the Sacred Evolutionary Dowsing Consortium, because as I said, it's incredible to work with a group and be able to ask those questions like Chris just asked. And I knew Carol would be the one to answer that question. So this book, Songline of the Heart, A Navigator's Guide to Resurrecting Your Heart, Home, and Habitat. This has been an evolution of a couple of years, as the Manasota Dowsers know. They've been asking me, like, when is it going to come out? And it will be out in October. But just so that people understand, it's part memoir. It's really a story about from the time that I learned dowsing to going to Australia, coming back, and then going to Australia and New Zealand, and what information, so it's part memoir. And can you learn dowsing through this book? Absolutely. But it's not going to be, it's a book about enlivening your heart, enlivening your land, and really opening the way for you to understand yourself as a navigator or a mentor, to really be that beacon of who you are for others. And I'll just give you a little hint. So when I was writing the book, the first 11 chapters came really easy, but the last one was very, very difficult. And it wouldn't come, and it wouldn't come. And it didn't come until I was willing to embrace what my voice is, how I can be that beacon of light. Even though I had done a lot of work with a lot of different groups and co-founder of a nonprofit, even initiated help, if you've heard about Loving Waters. I mean, these are the things that are now really coming together. And that book and the consortium who's following with a second book about how do we come together in group resonance and allow ourselves to be guided by, you could say, God as a collective or the unified field. How do we align ourselves and really let go into the fecundity of life, to really embrace and embody this love that's wanting to move itself, to create that peace, to restore the peace in our homes. And that's the power of this book, is really about that journey. So it's a little bit different than a lot of different dowsing manuals or dowsing books.
Shelley, could you put the name of the book in the chat so that if people would like to get it,
Yeah.
they would know, and where they could get it?
Yeah, I will.
So the name and where they can get it. I think that would be helpful.
So again, the name of the book is Songline of the Heart, and it's not coming out to October. So, and right now, lots of things are happening to converge a new website. And so many people will know the work that I've done is Golden Light Dowsing. So you can either PM me on Facebook, Shelley Darling, and say that you would like to receive this book and get on that list that's already growing to receive the book. And I will let you know as soon, I'll begin to start to post this as soon as the new website is up, probably in another couple of weeks. And, or you can email me at Shelley, and it's EY, at Evolutionary Dowsing, DOWSING.com, and make sure that we'll stay connected. And I will also, if you're coming in from Facebook, you'll be able to connect with other dowsers, either with the Manasota Dowsers, and or that we will be opening up the Sacred Evolutionary Dowsing Consortium probably within this coming year for others to be able
Great.
to experience the collective unity of working with a group. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to you and thank everyone for joining us. And yeah, happy to be in service and happy to be playing with this incredible group, the Manasota Dowsers.
Thank you, Shelley. We're just delighted to have you. Since Shelley talked about the songline and the Aborigines, what that means to them, I would like to end with the Aborigine greeting. And I know it's late in the day, but for the rest of the day and the rest of the week, this Aborigine greeting goes out to you. Hello, divine oneness. We stand here within you, this special group of your beings. We thank you for this day, and we thank you for each other. I thank you for me. We dedicate our day to the honor and purpose of oneness, and I would say, and love. We ask that everything we need be provided for. We ask that everything we do today, say today, here today, be only in the highest good, in my highest good, in the highest good for all concerned, in the highest good of all of life everywhere throughout the universe. End of message.
Thank you.
I just love that. So thank you. And we'll see you next month, maybe in person, I would hope, but if we still feel nervous about it, then we'll meet here online. Maybe with the boosters, we will be able to meet in person because they're coming out the end of this month for older people. So thank you again, Shelley. You can stop the recording now.